This is the bass clef. Along with the treble clef, these are the two most commonly used clefs in music. When put together, they create what is called the grand staff. Before we get into all of that, we need to learn how to read the bass clef. The bass clef, also known as the F clef, is used by lower pitched instruments, such as the double bass, tuba, cello, bassoon, and trombone. The piano has the largest pitch range out of all of the instruments. Because of this, pianists need two clefs to cover the whole range of the piano. Without the bass clef, piano players would have to read many ledger lines below the treble clef staff. To keep all instruments reading music that is in the same range that they play in, instruments with a lower pitch need to read in bass clef for the same reason pianists need to read in bass clef, to minimize the use of excessive ledger lines in sheet music and to make it much easier to read the music. When learning about music theory, it is very important to know how to read both the treble clef and the bass clef, as it allows you to be able to visualize where all the notes on the staff are. If you only know how to read treble clef, you really only know how to read notes above A3, and there are many notes and special characteristics of the notes in the bass clef below A3. The bass clef has the nickname of the F clef because the two dots on the right part of the clef surround the line note F in bass clef. Using what we learned in a previous video, we know that every time you move up or down from a line to a space or from a space to a line, the note name increases or decreases by one letter. Knowing that, we can figure out the rest of the notes on the bass clef staff just by knowing where F is. From bottom to top, the line notes in bass clef are G, B, D, F, and A. The space notes from bottom to top are A, C, E, and G. A great way to remember where the notes are in the bass clef is by remembering that the bottom three spaces spell the word ace. From there, you know where F is, so G will be the next space, followed by A on the top line. With all of that, you can figure out the location of any note on the staff. Just like on the treble clef staff, notes can be written above and below the staff using ledger lines. This works the exact same way as it does in treble clef. No matter if the notes are inside or outside of the staff, moving up one note will increase the note by one letter, moving down one note will decrease the note by one letter. Here is the diagram of the bass clef notes one more time. I've highlighted the notes that are easy to remember with ace as well as the location of F. Now let's practice reading some notes on the bass clef. I will show you 5 different examples of notes in the bass clef and give you 15 seconds to identify them. Feel free to pause the video if you need more time. Then I will display the note name and you can see how well you did. If you don't get any, that's perfectly fine. I'll provide some resources for practicing reading bass clef in the description. If that was difficult for you, don't worry. It takes time to learn to read note names. I have linked some resources to a music theory website in the description that will help you practice learning to read in bass clef. As with all things in music, the more you practice, the better and faster you will become. Now, let's talk more about that grand staff I mentioned earlier. Because of the range of the piano, using only the treble clef to read piano music isn't enough. The piano can play much lower than the treble clef can show, so piano players read from what is called the grand staff. The grand staff is all built around C4. When we stack the clefs in the grand staff, you can see that there is a seamless connection between the clefs. This diagram will help you to visualize how the grand staff works. I've also added the octave to the notes so you can familiarize yourself with which octaves are present in bass clef. The first upper ledger line in bass clef is the same as the first bottom ledger line in treble clef. As I stated earlier, this is C4. This is A0. A0 is the lowest note you can play on the piano, and it's also considered the lowest note in music. At a frequency of 27.5 Hz, any pitch below A0 is unrecognizable to human ears. Before we practice reading the grand staff, I will show you one more diagram. This diagram shows where notes on the grand staff fall on the piano. It takes time to learn where these notes are, so I've linked resources in the description to help you practice reading the grand staff on piano. Even though you might not want to learn to play piano, it is very important to at least have a basic understanding of the instrument. Understanding how the piano connects with music theory makes it much easier to learn and read music. Now, let's practice identifying some of the notes and their octaves on the grand staff. This can be a tricky concept to learn, so I will show you where C4 is at all times for a reference. You will have 15 seconds to identify the note name and its octave, then I will reveal the answer. If you need more time, feel free to pause the video. I will show 8 examples. If you had any trouble with that, that's okay. It's very important to not let tricky music theory concepts discourage you from wanting to learn more about music. It just takes time. I've linked another resource in the description to help with identifying notes on the grand staff. In this video, we learned how to read bass clef, how to read the grand staff, and how to read the grand staff on the piano. In the next video, I'll be talking about some of the basic scales and keys in music. Also, if you haven't seen my previous video about reading music, I highly recommend you check it out as it covers many other concepts with reading sheet music that were not included in this video. Thanks for watching, see you all soon.